Austin Simmons is the most hyped Ole Miss quarterback since Eli Manning, and I think he is well worth it. We get to find that out, though, in just a couple of days.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. On today's show, we will dive into Ole Miss versus Georgia State, what you need to watch for when the Rebels take on the Panthers. And this is shaping up to be a Cayden Lee type breakout season for fans that have been waiting for that. We also hit the Ole Miss keys to the game, what Ole Miss needs to focus on in this game and why. This matchup is what I call an athlete game. I'll tell you exactly what that means. But first, we kick things off with the beginning of the Austin Simmons era. This is the most hyped quarterback since Eli Manning to take over in Oxford. His name isn't Manning, but his talent is undeniable. Could this finally be the quarterback Ole Miss fans have actually been waiting for? We'll explain all of that and more on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is. And that is the most fun way to follow Ole Miss. Do us a favor and like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast of the audio podcatcher that you are listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs nothing, keeps everything absolutely free. If you want more than that, join the Inside programs at the subtext link down below. No trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way to cancel, so give that a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, they're available for you. And coming up in Ole Miss trivia, the clue for this trivia question is season openers yet again. See, we're doing a theme thing leading up to Georgia State. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So, the most hyped quarterback that has been at Ole Miss since Eli Manning is Austin Simmons, and it's not particularly close. And this is following how good of a quarterback Jackson Dart was, being a first round quarterback that has had an unbelievable preseason so far. But still, Austin Simmons is getting a ton of buzz, a ton of hype. And the question becomes, is he worth it? Is he going to do the Eli Manning thing in his first game and have 18 straight completions and have it going? Or is he going to do the Michael Spurlock thing, who was another highlighted quarterback coming into his own in 2004? I, for one, absolutely believe in Austin and what he can do. That's just the way it is when it comes to that. He's been on this podcast twice. I've talked to him a couple of times personally. The guy is unbelievably impressive and does exactly whatever you would want. So Austin Simmons coming into this game against Georgia State, whenever he is taken on first in his time in Ole Miss, there was the first spring game where they played flag football or whatever, but Austin didn't exactly light the world on fire that day. He was very fired up to be there. You can see he was pressing just a little bit. And the Ole Miss defense took advantage of Austin Simmons in the spring game. In the first scrimmage as a starter, Austin threw 2 pick sixes. Didn't necessarily have the best scrimmage, but we talked to John Forcade, and he's not going to hold anything against it because, as John says, he had bad scrimmages and good scrimmages and all of that. As long as you do all right in the game time, that is all that matters. And scrimmage number 2, he was excellent in. Scrimmage number 3 was very good in. So Austin Simmons on first, it's been kind of touch and go, kind of hit or miss. And this will be the first game with him as a starter. So it's important for Lane Kiffin to kind of realize that and handle what's going on. Don't do the all gas, no brakes thing until you get your young quarterback into a rhythm. Austin has all of the talent in the world. He does. He definitely has the ability to be the best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference this year. The tools say that. And when you look at Garrett Nussmeier got injured, has a chronic knee problem, and that was the head coach, Brian Kelly, calling it a chronic problem. He's going to hurt his knee over the course of the season. And DJ Lagway has been on again, off again in camp. Arch Manning, we don't really know about that because the only run out he had was a series of 2 against the Georgia Bulldogs as far as a good run out, and he didn't show pretty well there. Now, he had a good game against Mississippi State and UTSA, but anybody would have a game against them. So that is the reason I think that Austin Simmons has a chance to be the best quarterback. If Lane Kiffin takes care of him early on and gets him into a rhythm. We talk about Austin's proclivity and the ability to get amped up for first. He constantly kind of catches himself and gets better and better as he says he is built for this. But Lane Kiffin needs to realize and find some easy throws. Don't do the all gas thing. Don't do the no breaks thing. And if that happens, Austin Simmons is going to be able to get into a rhythm and build confidence going into Kentucky and going into Arkansas. And next thing you know, he's the best quarterback in the whole SEC. Lenore Sellers, I'm not super thrilled about Lenore Sellers. Anybody that didn't let him get off on the run game, Lenore Sellers struggled with. Lenore Sellers is a really good quarterback, but we're talking about tools to be a super elite quarterback. And there are even people that say, hey, we might even see him in New York at the Heisman ceremony. And that could very well happen. But the way it sits in conference football, there's not quarterbacks that are far away blowing everybody out of the water. Like I said, Arch Manning is the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Arch Manning performed better in an apples-to-apples comparison against the Georgia Bulldogs. Garrett Nussmeier threw for about 40%. He played well, but you have to be careful. And that was in Tiger Stadium against Ole Miss, winning in overtime. Ole Miss can win that game. The one off game that there was an offensive lineman out, Garrett Nussmeier struggled. Well, this year there's 3 or 4 offensive linemen out that Garrett Nussmeier is going to get over. I'm telling you, it is not a shot in the dark to think that Austin Simmons can be the best quarterback in the SEC. Will he? I doubt it. But he can be. And he has just as much of a claim as these other quarterbacks will have. Everybody talks about John Mateer and the fact that he could be elite. Well, what if his offense doesn't work in the SEC? What if for some reason they get pressure and all of a sudden he's just not quite as good? There are flaws with every single quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. And that leads me to Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback at Georgia. And I think Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart, they love this player. He's not going to be the best quarterback in the conference, but Georgia might be the best team because of him, because of what he does. I really like what Gunnar Stockton can do. I think that Jackson Arnold has a chance to be pretty good this year as well. But we've all ridden the Hugh Freeze roller coaster over the last couple of years. That's what I mean. And that's how it goes. The Austin Simmons era begins Saturday night. And if Lane Kiffin gets him off on a good start, all of a sudden he could throw for 300 yards. He could throw for 5 touchdowns, get all of the confidence going into the next week. And he has a legitimate shot to be primed to be the best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. That is why you need to pay attention to Austin Simmons for this game. He has a chance to be very, very good, and we'll see exactly how it goes. Now, Eli completed 18 straight passes and 5 touchdowns in 2001 when he had his first start as a redshirt sophomore. That's kind of the benchmark for the season opener start for a new starter. Georgia State's a little bit better. They have a pretty good running back room. We will talk with David Schultz from Locked On Sun Get Belt tomorrow about the Georgia State Panthers, and we'll start to get to know them just a little bit. But as it sits right now, Austin Simmons should have the makeup with the wide receivers and the pass catchers to be very, very good this season. So we'll see exactly how that goes. What does Ole Miss need? Not to just beat Georgia State, but dominate and look good doing it. From sticking the run game to settling the defensive tone early. I've got your keys right after this. You know, most people can't name their financial accounts, even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k, properties, or investments. If you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money is a all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. It's kind of like a laptop or your phone, being able to control everything financially in your life. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're organizing your financing, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all of the heavy lifting. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data with visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. When I switched over, I noticed immediately my portfolio was a little bit slanted. So I was able to organize things in such a way that it was much more balanced, and Monarch Money helped us do that. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege. Today is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling for an MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. That's music to Locked On Ole Miss podcast ears. So take a flyer on the MVP race. I am currently all about Jayden Daniel putting up massive numbers this year for the Washington Commanders. Crown your champion in August, right? I like the Buffalo Bills. Maybe it's the Hard Knocks, but I'm not 100% sure why, but I like the Buffalo Bills. Or parlay your division winner, dark horses. Hello, New Orleans. Hello, Miami, right? Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning for your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us exactly what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our recruiting. Go to the lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes down below. Thank you for helping us out. So let's get going talking about the expectations going into week one and the keys to victory against the Georgia State Panthers. We'll talk about that in just a second. But let's start off with the expectations, because I think this is pretty important. I think that Austin Simmons just needs to flash in this game his big-time potential against Georgia State. Number two, the defensive line must be a dominant force after all of the hype that this unit has gotten over the course of camp. And Ole Miss has a running game that when Georgia State knows it's coming, it still works. Those are the expectations going into week one. Austin Simmons flashing this week is going to be huge. The defensive line being dominant, and of course the running game working when the other team knows it's coming. Pretty simple stuff that Ole Miss needs to look at for the walk-on. So what are the keys in this game? I think Austin Simmons just needs to play within himself. As other firsts happen, he's been hit or miss at quarterback. So Austin Simmons being Austin Simmons, just taking it easy. He might throw for 100 yards in the first half. He doesn't have to be Jackson Dart. He doesn't have to be Matt Corral. It might be a situation to where Austin Simmons is really good at what he could be, and he just needs to be himself. He doesn't need to be Jackson. He doesn't need to be any quarterback other than Austin Simmons and just let the talent happen. It's one of those things that if you just run the offense and do what's supposed to be done, they're going to be very difficult to stop because he has all of these tools. Number two, I think this is going to be an athlete game to where Ole Miss wants their athletes to line up in space against the Georgia State Panthers. It's one of those games. Use the weapons that are on the outside. Cayden Lee, Daquan Wright. You have more players at the skill position. If they can't stop the run, again, I talked about our expectations a little bit earlier. If they can't stop the run, it's going to be really hard to stop those weapons on the outside and at running back in the pass game. So if you get players in space, it becomes an athlete one-on-one type deal. And if that happens, Ole Miss is likely going to win. The third one is play a clean game. You hear me say this. If you've been following this show over the last 3 years, this is one of my keys nearly every single week. Play a clean game, because the only way that Georgia State can win is if you help them. So remove the opportunities to help Georgia State to believe. Don't interceptions. Don't fumble the ball. Do not go for it unnecessarily. You do not have to play risky in this game. If you just let your talent take over, you're going to win this game pretty easily, honestly. And if you look at the line right now, it's moving a little bit. It was 38.5. It's come down to 35.5. It's still a 5-point touchdown game. The over-under has gone down about a point, but we're in the neighborhood of 45 to 10, maybe 48 to 14 or something like that. That is what we're looking like right now on the FanDuel betting lines. Ole Miss has a chance to be really good in this game. They have a lot of questions that need to be answered, but if they answer them, they have a chance to be really good against Georgia State. But Georgia State's not bad. They lost to Vanderbilt last year. They beat Vanderbilt last year. And a couple of years ago, they went into Neyland Stadium and got a win as well. They've gotten a couple of SEC scalps along the way. But this is a game that Ole Miss is going to win unless they actually give different opportunities to Georgia State. Ole Miss has to help out Georgia State in this game. If Ole Miss can just play a clean game without turnovers, just ending the game every single possession with a kick, Ole Miss is going to win this game. Now, the question is, are they going to cover if you do that? That all depends on where Lane Kiffin sits, honestly, if we're going to be real about it. Does Lane Kiffin want to score 60 points? He usually does. He's a guy that doesn't have a problem blowing out the other team at all. Ask Arkansas about that. Heck, we can still remember the Trey Biddy walk-in talking about Lane Kiffin running it up on the Arkansas Razorbacks. So it will be interesting. I know against Georgia, Lane was fine with the field goals. Won the game 28-10. Absolutely beat down the Georgia Bulldogs in that game. There's multiple different ways that this game could go. If you look at the keys, I will say them again. Austin Simmons just needs to be Austin Simmons and play the game within himself. He's been hit and miss in openers, so it's going to be on Lane Kiffin to make his life easier as this game starts. And second of all, this is an athlete game. Just like I said, Cayden Lee, Harrison Wallace, Deshaun Stribling, Daquan Wright, Trace Bruckler, Kewan Lacey, Damian Taylor, all of those are super athletes to where when you play against the Georgia State Panthers, there's a one-on-one advantage. So if the offensive line is good, which I think the offensive line should be pretty good, honestly, then Ole Miss should run the clock up pretty good against the Georgia State Panthers. 42-10, something like that. Like I said, they might not cover. That's a lot of points. 35 points is a huge number to cover, but Ole Miss should have the ability to do it. Lane Kiffin is the number one offense in the nation over the last 5 years, averaging over 500 yards per game. So we'll see how it looks. Those keys, those simple keys, Ole Miss should be very, very well positioned for this game. Austin just being himself, playmakers making plays in space, and playing a clean game, Ole Miss is going to win this game going away if Ole Miss can do that. But we'll ask David Schultz about that tomorrow on the crossover edition, the Know Your Enemy episode. So we'll see exactly how that goes. In our final segment, what should you be watching for when Ole Miss takes on Georgia State? We'll tell you the player we think is going to have a massive year and why that is such a good sign for the Ole Miss Rebels. All that and more coming up right after this. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, you get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorsteps tomorrow. You over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times give you everything you expect and keep you from punting projects, while the industry leader customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a fast project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job while every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated service make the whole process a whole lot smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and secure some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5. That's all one word, SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This looks to be a really big game, big week for Cayden Lee. It's something that is interesting to me and how it could go. But Cayden Lee could be the player that has an absolutely huge game. Listen, over the course of this whole offseason, Cayden Lee has been the player that has been attached at the hip with Austin Simmons, whether having throwing sessions or practicing down in Miami or wherever they're meeting up. Cayden Lee has done his part to get that situated. He's put on 10 pounds of good weight this season. I think he played last season at 169, 170 pounds. He's up to 181 this year, and it's all good weight, he says. It's somebody that he put on weight in the weight room that's going to help his durability. That is going to make the slot position even a little bit more explosive. Cayden Lee is the type of football player that has a chance to lead the entire Southeastern Conference in receiving. If you don't believe me, look what Lane Kiffin did with Elijah Moore. Matt Corral had another relationship with Elijah Moore in 2020, and they used it. I think Elijah Moore played 8 games over the course of that season or something like that. He didn't play it against LSU. He didn't play in the bowl game. He still had a ton of catches. And it was somebody that had almost his brain just attached with Matt Corral. And because of that, they put up big numbers. And Cayden Lee kind of has that relationship with Austin Simmons. They got here at the same time. So they have some familiarity with each other. Now, if you look at what else you need to watch for in that game, I think Lane Kiffin traditionally builds his offense around the strength of his team. That is the way that works. He is somebody that pretty consistently puts together a strength offense out there. In 2020 and 2021, it was very run and gun Matt Corral looking. In 2022, when you didn't have that strong of quarterback play, it was Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins. In 2023 and 2024, it was very Jackson Dart centric. The receivers put up big numbers as well. I think this year could be a little bit of a balance type situation because of the processing ability of Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons is going to be able to diagnose stuff earlier. The ball is going to get out of his hand. And because of that, the offense is going to look a little bit differently this season. The other thing to look out for is, will Damian Taylor and Trinidad Chambliss both have specialty roles versus the Georgia State Panthers? And what I mean by that is, will Damian Taylor be the wildcat running back near the goal line or in short yardage? Will he be the J.J. Pegues this year? And will Trinidad Chambliss have something similar in the red zone as well? Two little gimmicks that Ole Miss has shown in the past that they have been willing to do will be available for them. And Trinidad Chambliss can really run, as can Damian Taylor. I am going to be interested to see what it looks like in the red zone and in short yardage, because that is where Ole Miss struggled a year ago. Even against Furman and Wake Forest and Georgia Southern and Middle Tennessee, it was 4th and short. When the other team knew that it was coming, it was hard to run the ball. Will Damian Taylor and Trinidad Chambliss kind of work to secure a difference in that? That is something I'm going to be paying very close attention to over the course of the game. And is the secondary a hold your own unit right now, where you not are overcompensating for them on the defensive side of the ball? Will the secondary be able to hold their own against Georgia State to where you can play that team completely straight up? If you have trouble getting a pass rush because you have to drop more people back in zone coverages against Georgia State, that's a problem. That's a red flag. So will Ole Miss's front line be able to singly hold their own against essentially the rushing game of Georgia State? They're pretty good. They got a couple of former Ole Miss backs in Rashad Amos and Jordan Simmons, and they also have Branson Robinson, the kid from Germantown. We'll talk to David Schultz all about that, but they have some weapons. This isn't last year where you opened up against the Furman Paladins. This isn't that team. This is opening up about 3 levels higher than that. Georgia State, pretty good team. Like I said, they beat Vandy last year. Vandy went to a bowl game, beat Georgia Tech, lost to the other team in Atlanta. So it will be interesting to see exactly how that turns out. A couple other players that are lining up real quick. You got Deshaun Stribling, 52 catches, 882 yards at Oklahoma State a year ago, had 6 touchdowns. You have Harrison Wallace the third, 46 catches, 720 yards, 4 touchdowns. And the tight end, that's the most interesting positions to me. You have Daquan Wright at the start, 27 catches, 394 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He had a really good Gator Bowl. He's somebody to pay attention to. And the other name to know at the tight end position is probably going to be Trace Bruckler. Had 22 catches, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. So it should be really interesting to see. Ole Miss is exactly where they want to be going into the season, but it starts off with Georgia State. That's the what to watch for. You've heard keys. And in the first segment, we talked about why Austin Simmons legitimately has a chance to be the best quarterback in the SEC. It's not even messing that up. He just has a chance. And it might be more questions on the other quarterbacks that allows that to happen, but his tools are right there to be able to handle that. That in the Lane Kiffin system, he's going to be pretty good. Anyway, today in Ole Miss Trivia, we're talking about season openers from 1992. In 1992, Ole Miss opened the season with the Auburn Tigers, and they would win that game 45-21. Who returned a fumble 92 yards that led to a blowout win against the Auburn Tigers? Put your answer down in the socials below. We will put out the answer on social media a little bit later on today. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. If you don't believe me, check out Ole Miss Podcast on Google. Just Google it and see how much we come up. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the podcast, comment on the podcast. Your support means the world to us. Subscribe to the audio podcatchers, all of that stuff. For your second listen, though, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, check out College Football Kickoff. Eventually, if Ole Miss wins games, yours truly will be on Amazon Fire TV Kickoff So that would be pretty interesting there. So check that out. If you have a Amazon Fire TV, it's on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So you can check that out. So hotty toddy, everybody. Remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.